I am joined here in Studio A on MTSU's campus by country star Alex Eastman. So thank you so much for sitting down with me today. So let's go ahead and just start out with what got you into music, specifically country music.
Well, country music, I never listened to country music. I actually was a rap guy for a little bit. I started rock, then I went into rap, and then didn't really fit rap, so I tried out country, and it was a little bit hard at first, but I started to try new things, get a little bit more exciting, and yeah, it was a real fun time. It actually wasn't until the pandemic I decided to start writing country music, and then everything shut down. So I'm like, well, I don't know how to write country songs when the pandemic's on. So I just looked up YouTube videos and stuff and started writing things down. The rest is history.
So you're like kind of self-made, self-taught. You learned how to write from watching YouTube videos?
Pretty much. I had a lot of guitar teachers that have helped me out, and a lot of music teachers in high school that set the foundations. But as far as country music goes, I was doing a lot of stuff. Then I had a producer that helped me in Winnipeg as well. He put the finishing touches on the country songs and get that sound going. And he's the guy that did all the songs that I have released so far out on Spotify. So it was a good time. It was good times, and that was all up in Canada, but now down here in Nashville. So it's getting good.
I like that you mentioned that you're from Winnipeg. We'll get to that in a minute, but I noticed you also said you started in rap. So how do you go from making rap to like being like, I want to do country now?
Well, I just didn't. When I listened to myself rap, I just couldn't see it. And then the subjects of the pop. This was around 2019, and it's just the subjects of the popular rap did not represent. Like I couldn't say anything from that. I was from, like country-esque suburb area, so it didn't really resonate. But country, I was like, okay, I'm working outside, I have an outdoor job, listen to country all day, let's see what it sounds like when we try writing some country songs. And they started out very rap like, but it turned out pretty nicely. It was good. It was a very nice time.
Right. Well, you mentioned you didn't really listen to country like growing up, I guess you would say. So like what made you start listening to country as you got older?
Just the fact that I had a job at the time that was a very kind of blue collar job of you cut the grass, you do stuff outside all day, and it just started playing a lot of country music there. And that's kind of where I grew up, was in an area that was more outside of the city, a lot of country, a lot of stuff like that. So I just kind of gave into it after years. I used to really not like it. I used to really hate it. I actually have a song called Lemon in My Rona. It's about trying new things. Instead of the guy goes to a bar, he gets a lemon in his Corona instead of a lime, and then that puts him on a journey of trying new things. That's kind of how that was with me with country music. I tried it out, and then I was like, hey, that's good, and it led me into a whole new era of trying things out. So it's good.
Right. Well, you mentioned that you kind of started making music around 2019, and it was rap. So what made you start like making music to begin with? What made you be like, I think music is something that I could really like pursue or that I want to get into?
Always, since I was like 10, no, earlier than that. I think I was like 3 years old. I was writing songs already. They're just very silly songs, but I always had songs in my head. Day one, that was always what I wanted to do. I did some in high school and stuff like that. We did some rock bands and stuff. We had some good times with that, and then I tried doing rap stuff, and then I went to country. But yeah, it was always songs, and no matter what the genre was, it always seemed to be the stuff that I don't know if this is like the God-given talent or whatever, but I can see kind of where different trends are going and kind of just move into that naturally with my writing. So it doesn't seem like, oh, I'm writing in this to that to this. It's just kind of like, okay, I resonate with this. This is what's coming out, and it just happens to be kind of where things are going.
Right.
So
I like how you said that too, because your music, it has like a very unique sound. Like you can tell little influences here or there, but it's quite original. So it doesn't seem like you're following all the trends of everybody else. Maybe you're setting them.
I like to think so. I hope.
Hopefully,
Hopefully, that's what I call it.
But you mentioned you're from Winnipeg, which is in Canada. So what is it like there? Like you said, you know, it is kind of more on the outskirts of the city, or where you were from at least.
Yep.
So like explain to me kind of the background of just being from an entirely different country.
Well, it's actually kind of similar, especially the part that I'm from. Murfreesboro's got a same kind of vibe and same kind of culture where I'm from. It's kind of like that suburb mixed with country. You drive a couple blocks, you're in the middle of a farm field or a forest or something. There's places to go fishing, there's places to do whatever, but there's also all the amenities. We got the Burger Kings, we got the Subways, we got all that stuff in that area. But the thing is it's just a lot of music and a lot of good stuff. I think we get the same music. A lot of it's pretty much the same. The one big thing that's different is there's a lot more faith-based stuff down here, Christianity, than there is up there. And I grew up 100% secular up there. There was none of that culture. It was actually very negative towards that. We're down here, and this is where I kind of had that faith experience and really developed my faith. So I think that is one of the main differences between up there and down here. But I think it's changing up there. It's going back to that a little bit more. But, you know, it's a good time. So, yeah, both places are good.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you you touched on it a little bit. You said there's like music there. What is the music scene like there? Is there a lot of opportunity to perform live or, you know, create with other musicians, or, you know, how does that work there?
Winnipeg's got a really good indie music scene, and they have a good metal scene, and there's even a jazz scene that goes on there. But the thing is for country music, it's very isolated. I actually didn't meet any other Manitoba country artists until I went to Calgary, which would be like the Calgary and Edmonton are kind of the country capitals of country music in Canada. And I didn't meet them until they came down there to perform or whatever. I didn't know any of them, and then I met most of them in a different province. So there's not a lot of country going on there, not a lot of country music scene. There are artists, but they're kind of dispersed, and then they kind of go to different places like Calgary or Nashville. But a lot of their stuff is online, or they'll do some shows here and there and maybe do some touring. But there's not much of a scene, whereas in Nashville, this is the place, the whole world. Like, no matter where you are in the world, even if you say Calgary or Edmonton, like Nashville, this is the place. Right. Like, you have to be here if you're doing country music. There's so much of a opportunities, even if it's just like doing trips or whatever. Like, I think it just makes so much of a difference.
Well, that was my next question is, you know, what really brought you to the country music capital of the world? Is like, what made you finally take the leap to like move down here?
I think I didn't even know about this like until I really started researching country music, and that's how I found out TSU. Is Hardy did an interview with it was a podcast called, I think it was called the Pitch List Podcast, and he did an interview with them saying MTSU has really helped me and developed me in country music. Gave me a lot of opportunities, so I didn't even know what that was. And they talked about NSI, talked about Nashville, and I thought Nashville was just Nashville Predators hockey team. That's all I knew, right? Because hockey. Right?
That's a very Canadian thing to say.
Well, yeah, I thought it was a similar place to maybe like Atlanta, and I didn't even know what that was. I just knew the names from the hockey teams, and I didn't really know that there was all this music scene here because I was more focused on Los Angeles, the rap scene, New York. Right, but then when I came down here, I was the first person to cross the border after the pandemic opened up, and I was driving in, and they took a little picture, a little flash, and they were waving, and they said, "Hey, come on!" And I thought, okay, I'm gonna get pulled over, something's gonna happen, like I did something wrong, and it was a reporter, and they said, "Oh, you're like the first person to cross the border to go into the States," and yeah, so that was one of my another time that I got an interview was there, and that was pretty crazy because, yeah, I didn't realize that was one of the first people to cross, and it was, it was totally different because we were so locked down still in Canada, and then I came down here, and everything was opened up. You go to Nashville, all the bars, like everything was opened up, and it was kind of refreshing for being isolated for 2.5 years, you know, or 1.5 years to see that, you know. So
that's something I really didn't even think about either. Was like the time that you were really like starting off was COVID time, and like being from another country, having to, you know, do immigration, like all those things, and deal with the border and all that. Like that's something I didn't even think about, challenges that were like you had to face as an artist. Was there any like major setbacks that you thought maybe I shouldn't go or maybe I can't do this?
I don't think there was any setbacks, especially when it came down here. It would just keep on going, you know. And there was bad things that happened. There was, especially, you know, any time doing stuff, there was hard parts. But I think it's just I think, again, that's what when I say my faith is what really brought me through this. I think that when you're talking about music, there's so much variables. There's so much, like there's so much stuff to go into, and there's so much stress, and there's so much rejection, and there's so much chaos, right? And in order to cope with that, it has to be the faith, right? So there's been a lot of hard times, but that's what's got me through it.
Right. Well, I want to jump back across the border to Canada real quick. So we spoke a little bit about performances and about kind of the scene in the area you grew up, but take me back to the farmers market. I noticed you performed there quite a bit in the early stages of your career. So what was that like? How'd you get on there? And, what was the crowd like and everything there? How did it help you grow as an artist?
Well, you see, like Luke Combs and Post Malone, Morgan Wallen, they all say, "Oh, I played the Ryman at such a great stage," but none of them could say they played the East St. Paul Farmers Market.
That's true.
So that's the new thing to hit. That's the new milestone to hit, and I hit that one. So there you go.
Right. Well, some people might call you Canadian Morgan Wallen because you kind of have the similar looks, in my opinion. But now you've changed up the hair a little bit, so you look a little different and stuff now. But and your style isn't that similar either. That goes back to your unique style. But we mentioned this a little bit, but what's it like performing around Nashville now? Because you started performing there, and now you're in the big city of Nashville, country music capital. What's it like playing venues here?
In Nashville, it's good. Honestly, like Nashville, the Calgary is actually pretty similar. Calgary's got a lot of stuff. Calgary's like trying to be the small Nashville, so that really prepared me for the stuff here. Writers' rounds are a little bit more bigger up here. There's more frequency, but it's like to compare that to Calgary is it's pretty similar, but it's nice. I like the cowboy stuff and all the stuff that goes on. You don't know what you're gonna find out here, but yeah, like Canadians, there's a lot of Canadians coming down here. There's a lot of those P1 visas going around, so we're getting Canada, eh? But yeah, so no, but it's good. Playing down here has been fun because you just go up there and you can just play, right? And you can get your songs put out there and meet the writing opportunities. That's what the biggest thing here is, the writing opportunities. There is so many writers that are looking to write and wanting to write, and just again, like I'm seeing all these guys from Canada. And it's just playing in the bar. Hey, how's it going? Right? Like it's just I'm meeting more people down here than I was up there. It's crazy the amount of people you're meeting and seeing down here. Yeah.
So being in the area and getting out there and playing everything, making connections. Are there any like connections you've made here that you are just like, I'm so thankful that I've made this connection? I could not see myself making music without this person now.
For like connections that I made here. I think that it's just the amount of development, like at MTSU and just in Nashville, and combining the two, MTSU and combining the Nashville. I think that is, I have to say MTSU is the biggest thing, because that's what's keeping me down here, right? And that's what's also giving me all this insight into how the music industry works. And the professors and the stuff that has been kind of like, how to actually work in the music industry, how to make a career of something so abstract and random and chaotic, how to organize that and how to present yourself and how to operate in that and how to work has been really beneficial, and has been telling me these things that I just would have to learn the really hard way. And I think that it's gonna save a lot of time. And it keeps me down here. So I'd say MTSU was the best as a whole, because the opportunities it's giving me is crazy. I got to go to like country radio seminar and stuff, and then see all these big country artists and talk to some of them and get some advice. And it's been that, like, just every day there's something here at MTSU that you're just like, what? Like, that's crazy. So it's a great place to be. But so I think that's been the biggest influence on me so far. I've only been down here about a year and a bit. It's felt like it's been longer than that, but it's only been a year and a bit. And yeah, but it's everyone who's been helping out has been pretty good. So I'm gonna say it's definitely that. But it's like I said, it's all God that's bringing me down here, and it ain't working without that. Because I'm telling you, I could tell you things that have like, wow, that shouldn't have worked out, but somehow it did. So
Right.
we're here, we're living.
Well, we've talked a lot about connections and, the work around the industry, but let's get into the actual music. So you've cited some influences in country and rap and rock. So who are some of the artists that have really, impacted your sound?
Artists that impacted my sound, well, it started out, the first artists that I listened to was rock. The first concert I went to was at age 3. It was the Guess Who, Randy Bachman on a Bachman Turner Overdrive, like taking care of business. They're from Winnipeg, right?
Really?
So that was the first major influence. The Shrek soundtrack, that was a big influence on me. That was again, I memorized that whole thing early on.
Excited to watch the new Shrek when it comes out?
I'm interested in watching the new Shrek. I hope they keep it. I hope they honor the Shrek from the beginning and just make it this silly, crazy thing like the Mine. I hope they make it like the Minecraft movie. We're good, Yeah. If they just make it like this silly, fun thing, then it should be good. Should be a good time. So.
Well, maybe they'll have another soundtrack that really inspires you.
I really hope they do, because that was the main thing about Shrek movies, is they had great soundtracks. No matter what Shrek movie you're watching, but especially number 1 and 2, had great soundtracks, and that was really actually shaped early music. Then I went into a band, Buck Cherry. That was the next band I went into. Then I went to bands like Black Keys and Jack White. And then I went into rap, like Future and Drake and Migos. and then I went into country music, and now I'm country into Christian music, but most like country. Now I'm just like anything rock. I was listening to rock 2006. Today, what a great year! What a great year for rock music, 2006.
So you really do draw influences from like all over the board.
Yeah, I did classical guitar. I studied that. That was my first shot at college, was majoring in classical guitar. So I listened to classical, jazz at that time, a lot of stuff like that. So yeah.
So what is your major now?
Commercial songwriting in the recording industry. So they teach you what the whole recording industry is. It's not just songwriting. It's actually only have a handful of songwriting classes. Mainly, it's just teaching you about the industry and how to work and what the publishers want, and how to sign a pub deal, what to look for in a pub deal, how to sign a record deal, and look for all the tricks. So I know all the tricks. You can't trick me.
No 360s over here.
Yeah. I know what the contracts say. I'm a real lawyer now. So.
Well, you've mentioned this a few times throughout the interview, how important, God is in your life. So, speaking of the music, you have sort of started talking a lot more about your faith and music and everything like that. What has that process been like for you, transitioning from, well, obviously rap and then into traditional country to more like Christian gospel?
Yeah, because it was a complete 180, like especially rap music. That's all the stuff that I valued. If you just go and look at any rap song, that was all I cared about, right? So the thing is, and that was, again, a 180. It was a sanctification process for sure. But, yeah, like I wasn't happy at that time, and I didn't really know I was not happy, and I thought, I just need more. I need more and more and more. And it didn't really, and it wasn't until I watched a podcast that it was actually the same podcast that got me into country music. Was the Duck Dynasty podcast.
And I feel like this is such an interesting story, because like that's a different way to get into Christianity. So tell me more about this podcast.
Well, and I think that was one of maybe the only ways I can get into Christianity, because like I said, I was so anti-Christian for such a long time, and this was just a show I watched, right? This was not anything to do with, because I think that a lot of Christian media, and this is what I'm trying to get away from, a lot of Christian media kind of just excludes everybody else. Like, you don't like Christianity, you're not going to be listening to Christian music. There's no reason for you to do that. There's nothing that's going to draw you in, right? But if you are just watching a show, I just watched Duck Dynasty, right? And that was the podcast that came off of that, was essentially a Bible study. I didn't know that, right? And I'm like, I need country words, so I just searched up, like, that was the only country thing I knew, because, again, city guys, rap music, whatever, right? So I typed that in, started writing things down, they started talking about whatever, just ignoring that. Let's talk about hunting again. Say this word, right? And I'm just writing stuff down, but then more and more and more about that. They're saying their testimonies. They're saying how they were living lives of whatever, the sinful life. And that's actually what kind of got me, which is rare, because I think a lot of people don't. What was the sin? And I was like, that was all they were talking about first. I didn't know what Jesus was. I didn't know what anything what else was. And they were talking about that. And then they were saying, they're reading just the Bible quotes. It wasn't like all this other stuff. It was just the Bible quotes. And I said, okay, this makes sense. But there was still a lot of stuff I disagreed with the Bible. I disagreed with a lot of stuff. And most people I knew hated all of that stuff. And they had good reason. They had good stories to say it. So I did a lot of research after that, through the pandemic, looking things up, right? What does this mean? Why does it say that? Why does it say that? What is all this stuff? And it actually did not mean what I thought it meant, a lot of the stuff.
Yeah.
And that was when I was like, okay, well, this is just a cultural thing. And the people that are making it seem worse, they're actually these guys that are saying they're Christian, and then they do all this bad stuff. And that's why the people have all these issues and all these hurtful problems. Well, they're actually wrong, and that's actually not what it says in the Bible, and they're not even following the Bible themselves. So it's like, okay, this makes a lot more sense as I started doing more research into it. But then, so then I started changing my opinions on things, and then when the things opened up, another one of my friends was kind of in the same boat. So he was already going to Bible study, so he invited me to Bible study, and that was my friend Farrell, and then my friend Dan. That's why I met him there, and he gave me like he gave me the Bible, and he kind of put me through this whole thing, and then this was when I was in the Catholic church up in Canada. He introduced me to priests and everything like that, and they really explained to me more stuff. So now I started learning about Jesus, learning about the Holy Spirit, learning more about the spiritual side rather than just, okay, this is what it says in the Bible, right? And it just kept on growing and growing and growing. And then there was a little bit of a time where I kind of I was moving around. I just moved to Calgary. I was starting to get in the world of theology, and I was falling into the stuff that was originally kept me away from Christianity, which was these rules, and you can't do this, and you have to do this before you do this, and all that stuff. And I was getting caught up in all that. So then I kind of, but then I started watching. I was looking Calgary, I couldn't find church, whatever. Then I started watching the same church that they went to Duck Dynasty on, the Duck Dynasty church. Started watching that online because I was like, well, they just said it so plainly and so biblically.
Full circle moment too, because it's like you found it through that, and then you started watching that church.
Correct. And I started watching that church, so I went down. I came down to Nashville again, and this time it was for a Tin Pan Songwriter Festival. And then I'm like, well, I'm 8 hours from Louisiana. Let's go drive down there just to see it in person. So I went there in person, went to a service, a little Bible study before there. And I walk into this back room where their Bible study was. It was just this portable in the back. There was like 10 people in there. And there were all the guys in there, and they're giving a Bible study. And he said, who wants to get baptized? And I raised my hand. I'm like, okay, this is. So I got baptized that day. And then that was just like, again, something that was just like crazy stuff, and just more and more stuff revealing itself, and just coming down here and developing my faith through different churches and pastors and guys like that. And it's just been something that's been really, I mean, yeah, there's hard times, but it's just been really, it's gotten me through that, because I think if it wasn't for that, the life of a musician, like they say, oh, why all these guys, they think the rock star life is because it's fun to do drugs and to mess around and do all that stuff like that. But it's because it's such a stressful thing. You don't know what's happening next day, right? And it's go, 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 and there's all this judgment, there's all this nonsense that's going on. And there's, number one, there's probably like reasons that I'm in the music, or anybody's in the music to begin with, right? And it's just kind of like the way people deal with it. There has to be a way, and this is my way, and this is what's been keeping me going, right? I wouldn't be doing any of this if it wasn't for God.
Yeah. So you've made such a connection. You're clearly very passionate about your religion and your faith and everything. Why is it so important for you to be able to spread that message through a message like music?
I just think that there's really nothing left for me to do at this point, because you see, in Christianity, it's like, well, they say it's eternal life, right? And it's just, there's no the value in the money, the value in the in anything kind of, and I mean, obviously there's always going to be that desire, right? That desire is always going to come in. It's not something that just goes away, right? but the value in all of that is kind of taken away. So now it's like, and there's when that chasing of that comes in, that's when the bad emotions come back, right? So when it's just you're just sitting there in this state of peace, it's like, why would you not want to share that? You know, why would you not want to tell people about that? There's no obligation. I don't have to talk about this. I don't have to do any of this stuff. Like, it doesn't matter. Nothing bad is going to happen to me if I don't do it, or if I do, like, whatever, right? But it's just like, it's just such this thing of peace, right? And this satisfaction that I could not get before. And I was trying everything to get this satisfaction. I couldn't get it, and now I do have it. Like I said, every day is not perfect, and it's a struggle, and there are times where I'm like, dang, I wish, you know, I could go and, you know, do this or do that or whatever, right? But the thing is it's not you know, it never leads anywhere good, and this is what I found has been the best. Yeah. So, yeah.
I think what you said is true as well. You know, every day is not perfect, and I think music is a very good thing for people to, you know, put their emotions into, and for people like you who, like you said, you focus on songwriting and things like that, to be able to have that outlet to, you know, express yourself. So speaking of the music and, you know, expressing yourself, you've released a lot of singles and a lot of things like that. Can we expect any full-length projects or albums or anything coming soon?
I think there will be one song released, and it'll be my first Christian. Like, I know I had a couple songs that reference Christianity. It was my first more Christian song. It's called God, Family, Country. It's going to be released in either end of May or June, and it's going to be essentially about what we were just talking about, my experiences with the faith while being in the USA, and how I've developed my faith while I've been down here. And that's coming out soon. But for full-length projects, it's an expensive way to get these things professionally produced. Mm-hmm. So I think I'm going to keep on releasing singles until I get a little sign on the dotted line, you know what I mean? So that I don't have to be putting my arm and a leg out, because it's, especially Nashville, we're not doing Winnipeg prices anymore. These are Nashville prices. That's you asked me what's different between Canada and Nashville. It's the prices of song recording is, yeah. But no, there's still some good guys out there. They're still gonna do it right. But it's just and you can get some good prices and stuff. But it's still, you know, it's still expensive to do more than one song at a time.
Right. It's the big leagues. You're playing in the big leagues now.
Yeah.
So where do you see yourself in the next 10 years musically? Not just in life, but, you know, music-wise, your influences, everything like that, your sound. Do you think you could ever go back to, you know, your roots of rapping or anything like that? Maybe some country rap fusion? I don't know.
Well, I've done a little bit of country rap fusion. Like Lemon in My Rona is probably the most extreme version of that. But yeah, I'm down to do that. Whatever feels natural at the time. It's obviously going to be God-centered the next 10 years. I want to. I think I want to get a publishing deal first. Mm-hmm. It helps me stay in this wonderful, beautiful area that we're in right now. And it also, you know, it's a good way to get your foot in the door and then to write songs, because I'm mainly a writer first. That's my focus, is writing, and then the artist side is the result of the writing side. So that's my strong suit, is the writing. So yeah, the publishing deal, then record deal, and just do a little bit of everything, kind of similar to Hardy, like a Christian country Hardy, you know. Right.
What's one thing that you want people to take away from this interview, and what's one thing you want people to know about Alex Eastman?
Trust God. It's real. It's all true.
That's all. That's all. Well, would you like to go ahead and let everyone know where they can find you at on social media and where they can listen to your music?
Alex Eastman Country. And you can listen to my music Spotify at Alex Eastman on Spotify. And Eastman is actually Eastern Manitoba.
Oh, wow.
That's what it's for.
It's not the name.
It is. It's a name, but it's meant for Eastern Manitoba. Shout out Winnipeg.
Well, make sure you check out Alex's music and go follow him on Instagram. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, of course.